when the lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic took place in the Philippines, we initiated what we called the Data Lake Project in order to help our policymakers collect and integrate the necessary data to fight the pandemic. The Philippines has no national ID system, although it's beginning, but it's not yet very functional, and it's also not used for the pandemic. And it has also a very fragmented data or information system and no working social or physical infrastructure to share data across government agencies. Both public and private data sharing is also plagued by problems of confidentiality and low trust. So I was asked by one high government official whether we could do something about this problem since we had just had a big data project with his department. So instinctively, I thought, okay, so this is government flagging or raising a problem. And if I could get the collaboration of my friends in academia and in business, then we have the basics of the formula for cross-sectoral collaborative action. Because this is really the first step. The first step is to analyze the problem and then to identify who are the people or organizations that we need in order to address the problem. We need to form what we call the coalition of the needed. But sometimes it's hard to bring together this coalition right away, so that a pragmatic way was to start with those who are able and willing to collaborate. We call this instead the coalition of the willing. So this was our approach, that of building networks or coalition, no matter how small at the start. So after only a week, we were able to form this alliance of government, business, academia, and civil society. And we called the whole effort the data science for the nation. We advocated the idea that in the era of big data, what we need is big collaboration. Digital technology is just one piece of the puzzle that we need to assemble, but the most important parts are the collaborative processes that enable people to work effectively and fast in order to outrun the virus and to address its many problems. And to work fast, we needed to trust each other. So building the trust is the art of co-governance. So for a whole 6 months after the lockdown, we worked tirelessly, meeting each other through Zoom daily and the first week even during weekends. So in the beginning, there were a lot of suspicions about the motives of each other. So the government, for instance, did not trust the big data international consultancy firm who offered to design the data lake for free. The legal department of that firm, on its part, wanted the firm to pull away from the project because it did not trust the government to manage the data well, and thus risking reputational damage if things turned out wrongly, like there's a leak in the data, etc. Now, within the university, we were also a multidisciplinary team, and yet one group did not want to share their computational models in the common data lake for fear that their copyright will be violated. And the government agencies who we approached were also very wary of putting their data in a common data lake. So the amount of mistrust was magnified because we were dealing with data, which is today's new gold, new oil, new currency. So there were very strict laws in place so that the privacy and confidentiality of this data is protected. And yet, in times of pandemic, data is a valuable common resource that can enable both public and private agencies to respond to the challenges of the pandemic. So we tried numerous strategies to break the paralysis because we didn't have a common data lake. The whole process of providing aid to the public, for instance, was very chaotic and prone to corruption because it was not transparent. So we wanted to introduce data solutions that could address this, but there were also strong forces within government that were resisting these changes. Some were because of corruption, but some because they could not trust something that is new to them or something that is unknown to them. So to break this paralysis, this impasse, we decided to focus on a very specific project that aims to help the poorest farmers and fisher folks to access information and help, as well as provide a digital platform to directly sell their produce. We have encountered so many failures along the way, but because we were not giving up despite all of these setbacks, we were demonstrating to the others our sincerity, and it is this at the end that inspired the trust of others. So when I say we, um, I mean this group that we formed. It's a core group that's composed of the high government official who initiated the effort through his call, the director of the University of the Philippines Computational Resource Center, and a group from the New Humanity movement in the Philippines. So we acted as a strong and stable fulcrum to bring together all sorts of opposing groups and forces in order to reach a common understanding of the problem and a common decision on what to do. We were also very explicit about what motivated us to push ahead. Whenever we are given the chance, we would always point to the fact that we are brothers and sisters of one another, and it is our responsibility to care for the weakest among us. In our project, these were the poorest farmers and fisher folks who stand to benefit from the app that we developed. So we all worked as volunteers. So at a certain point, we had to go back to our normal work and could no longer give the long hours that we were giving at the start of the project. So there was a point that we thought that all our efforts were for nothing because things seemed to be at a standstill. But from out of the blue, a breakthrough took place and the app has been fully adopted by the Department of Agriculture of the Philippines, and the data lake is now institutionalized in the University of the Philippines. Thank you.